Just do a little boop. Hello, my mindful meal preppers. My name is Em. This is Life's Table, and I want to continue on with our discussion this week with what we had for last week, stress management. And today, actually, we're going to be talking a little bit about one of my favorite words, resilience. What that means, we'll get into it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and try to beat this weather. We'll tie back our hair if we have to. We'll put on an apron if we've got one, and we'll get cooking good looking. There's so much to learn at Life's Table today. I can't wait. So I realized I just jumped in without even telling you what we're making. We're making Tofu Bahn Mi today. It is a delicious Vietnamese sandwich. Comes together incredibly well. So many fresh veggies, and I get to play with the air fryer today, which do not fret if you do not have an air fryer. It's okay. I'm going to give you a stovetop option as well as an oven option. We'll go ahead and we'll get started with our tofu. Yay. Hopefully you bought firm to extra firm. Go ahead and cut up your tofu package. Now, for those of you who are new to tofu, first drain the liquid out of it. What you'll have here is this like block, okay? It is still so full of liquid. So what we're going to do is what we call press the tofu. So grab a plate, grab a bowl, grab something, and then grab another item that is heavy to literally press down on top of it to get some of these juices out. We're going to do this. All right. So I've got my tofu in here. You can kind of see it peeking through. Hello. And I'm just resting it here. Heavy salt. And I'll even throw in like the apple cider vinegar just to like really get some weight going into it. Okay. While this presses and we let gravity help, I'll set this aside so we can move on to the next step. We are going to pickle some veggies quickly. The pickling process normally takes quite longer than what we have here for a quick video, but we're going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to get a few of my radishes rinsed and chopped up. We'll start with like 6 and I'll move on to the 7th if I need it. We'll go ahead and get these washed off. Rest them here on the side. We'll cut the heads and the tails off of these and slice them. We bring out the veggie scrap bag. And now, while we cut, let's now start talking about stress and building on what we learned last week. Generally speaking, when it comes to stress responses, which, sorry, by the way, if you can see this, like some of these have little spots. I'm just going to cut the spots off of them. Generally speaking, when it comes to stress, people's reactions and responses to stress will throw them into one of 3 categories. And we'll start with the most extreme reactions and the most extreme responses. There are some of us who are very strong responders to stress. We have very strong reactions to it. And generally speaking, we all have our baselines, right? We all have wherever our green, if you remember the green, and then something happens to kick us up into a higher level of stress. Something in our environment maybe acts upon us and causes stress. If we have our baseline, just kind of status quo, normal selves, and then something stresses us out, those of us who are more sensitive to that, and by sensitive, I don't mean like, oh, this generation is getting so soft, blah, 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 etc., etc. I don't mean that at all. By sensitive, I mean we have stronger stress reactions. And if we remember back to last week, some of my reactions to stress I can't even control, right? My flight or fight response is entirely reflexive. How rapidly my heart starts racing and the reasons that get it to start racing are out of my control entirely. For those of us that have those stronger reactions, those more sensitive responses, what we see is that those people then, if we're all on this baseline, those people tend to jump pretty high in terms of their reaction and their response to stress. And they tend to be stressed out by more things. What that means is that it's going to take more time for me to then return to my baseline. And unfortunately, what that does is it increases the likelihood that I won't make it back to my baseline before something else in life stresses me out and then sends me even higher. Because it takes me longer to self-regulate and come back down, I don't always make it all the way back down. And so what we find is the people who are suffering from chronic stress, they tend to be these kinds of people who get elevated and they can't return to baseline before getting further shot to the top. I will go ahead and put these radishes in the fridge, and then we'll move on to our carrot. Just one carrot should be fine. Give it a rinse. Veggie peelers. The outer peel is going to go into the veggie scrap bag, and then I'm actually going to just continue to peel it to get nice little carrot shavings. It gets to the point too where, like, for these people, just the idea of having stress stresses them out. It's not even about like the actual stressor. It's just the thoughts about stress. Stress is the enemy. It is the bane of my existence. It is the monster in my closet or under my bed. And that kind of then gets back into what Dr. McGonigal discussed of just the idea of stress is enough to cause major physical and mental health problems in the long run. And of course, as we know, when life is this endless ocean of waves that are going to hit us and come through and potentially do damage, when it's unavoidable, it just means that these people are constantly stressed about what the next thing may be. All right, we'll go back to our baselines of stressful events. The second type of person that we encounter when it comes to stress and handling stressful situations, this person understands that like stress is a thing, right? Stress happens, but it's kind of like a I'll deal with it when I get to it approach. When life happens, I will react and I will respond, and then life continues to go on. So going back to this baseline, if the stressful event happens, they don't necessarily have as strong of a reaction to stress. So it doesn't go quite as high. And then because it doesn't go quite as high, it's a higher likelihood that they'll be able to just kind of return to baseline and return to normal before the next stressful event happens. And the next stressful event happens and they bounce up a little bit and then they kind of just trickle back down. I feel like it is kind of the approach that a lot of us take of like, I'll just get through it and I'll deal with it and it'll be fine. And there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, right? They're not getting worse. Stress is not having the extremely negative impact on their life that those suffering from like chronic stress and those more extreme stress reactions experience. But they're also not getting better. And there are ways to improve. I'm going to eat this. What we do with our carrot shavings, I'm going to cut them in half just so they're not quite so long. And I'm going to cut the rest of this off and throw it in the veggie scrap bag and maybe give it to the dogs. So yeah, veggie scrap bag. I'm going to just like rough chop these into like 3. I'm not even going to try to like line them up or make them look pretty. We're just going to like 1, 2. Perfect. All right. Now I'm going to get a pan. We are going to build our marinade now. So with your leftover apple cider vinegar, we're going to get half a cup of vinegar into the saucepan. We do a half a cup of water. Don't do what I just did. Bring the sauce pot to the sink. Don't bring the sink to the sauce pot. I just dripped all over my counter. We will go ahead and sprinkle a little salt into it. Boop. Oh, wow. Okay. That's about a half a teaspoon. And then 1.5 tablespoons of the maple syrup that we bought. I know some of us kind of feel strongly about sugar and sugar content in our meals, you're welcome to use the substitute. That's totally fine. If you want to leave it out, I would not recommend leaving it out for this meal. It helps to balance out all of the bitterness that is currently in the pot. I'm going to turn this on to low to medium low. I'm not trying to have this like cook up super quickly. I want these flavors to come together before they start boiling and getting crazy. But I am going to drop my veggies in right now with them to heat up all together. Make sure that everything is fully submerged. Like two of my favorite color combinations is in this pot right now, and it's making me so happy. Oh, I also wanted to add a little bit of heat to this. So I'm going to chop off the top of my jalapeno and I'm going to plop it into the mixture. And I'm also going to cut the seeds out of it for some added heat. I need you all to please be very careful with how you're cutting into your jalapeno. We're going to just slice it down the middle like that. But also, the more that you touch the seeds and the jalapeno itself, please do not touch your eyes. Please do not touch your mouth if you're sensitive to spice. So emptying the seeds in here. Another thing too, just a trick about jalapenos. When you choose your jalapeno, if you do not like spicy jalapenos, but you like the jalapeno flavor, fresher, newer jalapenos tend to be less spicy. As they age, some of the older looking ones, maybe they're a little wrinkly on the outside, maybe they're a little bruised, a little beaten up. Those are the ones that like really have the heat and really have the kick. I'm gonna give this just a little bit of a stir to make sure everything gets mixed in all well together. And what I'm going to look for, and hopefully see soon, is a simmer going. I want this to not boil, but just kind of start to simmer. And once it starts to simmer, then I will pull it off the heat and we'll start cooling it so that we can eat this cold instead of hot. So while that comes together, I'm going to set my jalapeno aside and I'm going to move back to my tofu that has been pressing. Remove the weights from them. I'm going to slice it this way and I'm going to make 8 slices out of it. All right. So I cut it in half this way and now I'm going to cut it into 4. I'm going to lay them out here. If you want, you can start preheating your oven. 400 is a good starting temp for the oven. If not, we can pan sear this as well. So you can get your pan heating up right now while we season and salt. I am going to air fry and we'll just do like a little drizzle. We'll just coat the top and all sides with the olive oil so that the spices have something to stick to. Now let's talk about our last type of person when it comes to resiliency and stress management. If you think about this baseline, not only has this person accepted that stress is a part of life and it's, it is inevitable and it's going to happen, they are to the point that it's almost like what we talked about in last week's video, where they see it as an opportunity for growth and they don't necessarily seek out stress, but they welcome it as a challenge and as that opportunity to prove to themselves that they can do this and they can overcome. Just get a little sprinkle over the top and a little salt. And then I'm going to give it a flip and do it again on the other side. And what we find in this person is that if you notice from their baseline, stress still happens, right? They still go up, but they also don't go nearly as high as a chronic stress person. They don't even go as high as the I'm just kind of maintaining, I'm just reacting person. Because they embrace it, because they welcome it, because they anticipate it, but they don't dread it. It doesn't like give them anxiety. What we find is that they have a less strong response and reaction to stress than even the people who are just maintaining and handling it as they go. And what that then does is it allows them to not just rebound faster and return to baseline faster, but it allows them to go below baseline. Wherever baseline was, they are able to actually lower their baseline in responding and recovering from stress. because again, they don't necessarily see it as a negative thing or a thing to be avoided. But it truly is an opportunity for them to prove themselves. I'm going to give this a little stir. Oh, I see some bubbles beginning to form, which is very exciting. A little salt. All right, for sure I'm smelling my vinegar solution now. I'm going to grab some parchment paper. I will cut about half. 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I can do 5. Make sure they're somewhat evenly dispersed. So we got that in and going for 12 minutes at 400. Once again, if you are pan frying it or pan searing it, get some oil in the base of the pan, give it a flip on like both sides. Look how beautiful though. It's making this gorgeous hot pink fuchsia-y syrup. Oh, I mean, it almost matches my dress. That was not on purpose, but I'm loving this color. Okay, sriracha man. If you have sriracha, great. Hot sauce is also good. I've got just about 1/3 of a cup left because I've got jalapeno in my syrup already. I am not going to go super heavy on the hot sauce because I'm assuming it's already going to be pretty hot for the pickles. 1 to 3 teaspoons should be all you need. Just a little. Oh, maybe 1 more. Okay, cool. That's definitely all we need. So anyway, how do you then become this person who is able to lower your baseline and not just maintain and react, but really embrace and accept stress as a part of life? Well, they build resilience. All right, we'll move on to our cucumber. I'm going to cut this in half. Veggie scrap bag. I'm going to cut down the middle. I'm not even going to peel the cucumber. I think I'm just going to take a spoon and scoop out the middle. I'll show you what I mean by that. You take a spoon, you press in and press down, and that helps to get out the seeds that tend to add a lot of moisture. And again, we don't want a soggy sandwich. All of these will also go into the veggie scrap bag. So, building resilience. If I were to ask you all, how do you define resilience? I would imagine that a lot of you would say it's my ability to get back up when I'm knocked down. It's my ability to bounce back. Bless you. We'll slice these relatively thin, nice thin little slices. I'm going to go ahead and say, job well done. It is your ability to get back up after you've been knocked down. But I want to take this one step further with you all and say, instead of it being your ability to bounce back, I want you to think about resiliency as your ability to bounce forward. When you get down, the goal is not, like we just said, to return to baseline. It is to rebound better than we were before. And that is regardless of the stress that we are being subjected to, which is way easier said than done because there are some significant stresses out there. But at the end of the day, it is our ability to rebound and recover and come back stronger than we were when we initially got knocked down. It is our ability to learn and to grow from these stressful incidences. I'm also going to slice up my jalapeno, and we are starting to simmer. Yes, I'm so excited. I'm going to slice this way. And our tofu is done, which means that I can actually just get the next round going. I'll go ahead and chop this. We'll do thirds. 1, 2. Cool. And we'll put this in a salad bowl. And then I'm going to finish off with my cilantro, and we will finish off with resilience. We will move on. Yay. We'll go with a little baby salad bowl for a little baby salad. I'm just going to let this sit and refrigerate, and I'll move this to the refrigerator as well. And I'm finally simmering on my brine. So I'm going to remove this from the heat and let that sit and cool as well. I'm going to pour it into here. I'll leave this out just to cool off a little bit more. And I'm going to move this to the fridge. We'll finish off with our cilantro. What I want you all to understand is that obtaining resilience, when you think about someone being a resilient individual, I like a lot of cilantro, so we're going to use a hefty bit. Rinse, give a gentle squeeze just to get most of the water out. When you think about someone being a resilient individual, it's not nirvana. You don't just like obtain resilience and then you're resilient forever and that's the end of it. Resilience takes so much more than that. We think of resilience not as like a permanent state, but rather it is a muscle. And we think about it like a muscle for actually quite a few reasons. But the biggest one being is it kind of works exactly like our muscles work. To build strength requires you to damage your muscles. And what I mean by that is the act of working your body causes micro tears, the muscle fibers to rip. And it sends this signal to your body that says, okay, right now at my baseline, I'm not strong enough to do what is being asked of me. I'm ripping. I'm not good enough. So when these muscle fibers begin to regrow and reattach and rebind and reconnect, they do it tighter, which causes strength. Essentially, resiliency is like that. My baseline stress management may or may not be strong enough to handle what life is throwing at me. So what do? I rise to the occasion. I meet the stress where I am. I learn, I grow, I adapt, I develop, I become a bigger, stronger, more resilient individual. And in the same way that you have to work out forever to be able to say that you're in shape forever, I can't just like reach a fitness goal and be like, okay, I did it. I'm in shape and I'm physically fit for the rest of my life. I wish it worked that way. That's not how it works. Resiliency is the same way. You constantly have to learn and grow and adapt and change. With time, your baseline becomes a new baseline. It takes more for you to get stressed. It takes more for you to have that stress response, which is good. But if you don't keep practicing, it will plateau and it will recede back to where it originally was. When we say things like people are resilient individuals, that's a wonderful compliment to pay them, but it makes it seem like you're describing them in the same way that you're saying this person is tall. It's not that case. We have to work constantly at being resilient individuals. It is commitment, it is dedication, it is time, it is effort, it is energy, it is working out. But in the same way that there are insane benefits to working out, there are immense benefits to working on resiliency and stress tolerance and stress management. I'm going to leave that off as is. With that, I do hope that you enjoy. I hope that you enjoyed what we discussed today. I hope that you walk away from this with a better outlook and a better mindset of stress, and you rise to the next occasion, whatever it happens to be, whatever that challenge is. I hope that you are able to not just survive it, but to embrace it and to perhaps even come back thriving from it. And I will see you in the next one. Bon appetit. We've got our bread all toasted. Oops, this way. And assembled with our Bahn Mi. Go ahead and we'll take a little bite. Wow, these flavors came together so beautifully. The tofu is nice and warm and crisp. The bread is crisp and toasted from the oven. The vegetables still have a really good crunch, but that flavor with the pickling comes out perfectly. And then it's kind of soothed by the spicy mayo, but also heated a little. This is really, really good. Man, I'm very happy with this. I hope you all are too. Thank you for taking care of you today. I hope you all enjoy. Bon appetit.